Hello everybody. Today we're going to talk about a Kenmore clothes dryer that I had an issue with. The machine basically wouldn't turn off after the timed heat cycle was over. And it started occurring after I replaced the heating element in the dryer. I think that might have been a coincidence. But overall, I could not figure out why the dryer would not turn off. So the clothes would actually be dry. It would go into the cool down cycle, and once the cool down cycle was over, the machine should shut off. The drum should quit turning with the clothes in it, and it would just continue running and running and running. Well, years ago that happened, and I ended up replacing the timer. And the timer is this part that we see right in front of us. So the timer is no longer available through any sources. You have to buy either a rebuilt one or just something off eBay, whatever you can find. Typically, what goes bad in these timers is the contacts. So we'll take this thing apart here in a minute, but the contacts usually go bad in most dryer timers. You can sand them sometimes to make them better on the contact points, and it'll usually fix the problem. Well, it turns out I ended up buying about 5 different timers from 5 different suppliers or people off eBay, all stating that the timers were in working order or they were rebuilt, and the same thing would occur. I also replaced the thermostat switch in it. I replaced the heating element, of course, because that went bad to start, and I replaced a few other things. None of those parts fixed the issue. Neither did any of the 4 or 5 timers that I put in this machine. So the other day I got out the schematic. You can see right here. You can usually find this online, or you can find a copy of it, a sticker on the back of the machine. This one is a printout of the sticker on the back of the machine. And I went through this diagram along with a multimeter, checked all the pins here. The pins correspond to what you see on the diagram. And basically, originally the heater right here went bad. I replaced it. That was not the cause of the timer issue of the machine not shutting off. But I've also replaced this resistor right here. That resistor goes on the back of the timer. I've replaced this thermostat heater right here. It goes on the back of the machine along with the thermostat switch. I've replaced it also. And I believe the thermostat switch is probably shown. It's called a cycling thermostat. Not sure where it is on the diagram, but I've replaced it. And this thermal non-resettable cutoff switch, it tripped one time, and you can bang it on the concrete to reset them. It says it's not resettable. You can physically reset those. But anyway, looking back at the timer, this represents all the contacts in the timer. And the drive motor's right here. This is what turns the drum of the dryer. That would not shut off. The only way I can get it to stop, of course, is to open the door. That triggers the door switch, which kills the power from Y running to the motor here. So once you open the door, the motor would stop. Inside the timer itself, what it's supposed to do, according to the diagram you can see here, it runs with contact BG, from Y to BG. That also drives the timer motor. The timer motor is right here. So you can see right here, here's BG. It's hard to see. BG is feeding power over to here. Excuse me, right there, BG. BG is feeding power from right here to the motor. And TM right here, this wire, goes right here to the timer motor. So we have TM and BG that makes the timer motor run to advance the timer itself. So according to this diagram, what was supposed to happen was, as long as contacts BG was contacting, the timer motor should be running. Then at some point the timer motor hits a detent inside here, which triggers BG to go to RE. Once BG goes to RE, the buzzer sounds and there's no longer power to the drum. That's how it's supposed to work. But what was happening was, this wasn't instantaneous together, feeding the motor here and feeding this motor here, the timer motor and the drum motor. What was happening was, the detent was hitting inside the timer itself. It was triggering to shut off power to the timer motor right there, but it was not shutting off the power simultaneously to the drum motor. So anyway, that's a physical problem after fighting this issue for a long time. And you would think after replacing the timer motor 5 times from 5 different sources that you would actually get a good timer when they state the timer is in perfect or good working order, or it's a rebuilt timer. Well, I'm going to show you that this is not the case. I had 5 bad timers, and it's not typically the fault of the person. They're going in there, they're fixing the point contacts in there. They're physically not looking for the real problem. They have no clue what the real problem is. But I have a feeling that a bunch of older Kenmore dryers ended up in the dump at the scrapyard because of this same issue. And it's a pretty easy fix. So let me get everything ready and we'll continue, and I'll show you what the fix is. Okay, let's get down to the fix of this timer motor. I'm going to read off the part number to you so that you know what it is. Pull the knob off right quick. It's hard to do with one hand. This is a 3388118A. There was also an older part number. I'll link it in the description. This particular dryer actually took 2 different timer motors depending on if it was the older style or the replacement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this front plate off. Let me state this right quick. There's normally a retainer ring that goes right here in this groove, and it keeps this motor shaft inside this plate, and it's already been removed. I guess the previous owner or people that sold this timer motor to me actually took this off. If yours is still on there, you'll need to take a knife. It's basically a ring with a groove in it, and you'll need to take a knife and wedge it in there and separate that piece. So basically it's like a horseshoe around there, and you'll need to open it up where you can pull it off the shaft. It's kind of hard to do. It's frustrating, but if you continue to work on it with a flat blade screwdriver or a knife, you'll be able to get it loose. Let me see if I can get these screws out. So the problem with these timer motors, hold on. The problem with these timer motors is typically the contacts in here, the points, you have to sand them, but that was not the problem with any of these. The people that rebuilt them already went in there and checked them or whatever. The problem with this is the actual detents in the discs. Let me take this part off and I'll show you. So normally you can't get this plate off unless you get that horseshoe ring. Here's the other one. So there's actually 2. So you'll see this thing has a groove in it right there. See that little groove? You'll have to separate it on the top one to get it off, so you can get this plate off. You don't really have to right now. You can actually pull the whole thing out as an assembly, but you'll need to get this plate off before you can do the fix. So the problem with this thing is, let me get this out. Hold on, let me go ahead and remove it, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, I had to wiggle it out of there. So these little points down in here with these contacts. See these little contacts? That's what people normally look for in a bad timer. They'll go in and they'll sand these contacts. There's one there. There's one there that actually has two different contacts in it. One that it's sitting on now, the other one right there. And there's another one right here. And all those contacts have to be nice and clean and not burnt. So, but anyway, here's the problem with these timer motors. See this piece right here? It's the part that the knob goes on. See there's multiple discs right here. So there's one there, there's one there, and then there's one over here with the teeth on it. This drives off the motor. So there's actually teeth in there, teeth right here. The problem is these outer two discs. They've got detents in them right there. See those detents? Right here. And here. Those are what drive these contacts off these little corner pieces. Those slide in these, those ride in these grooves and open and close the points when it hits these detents. The problem is these two discs, they get wear in them and they're able to wobble. See how I'm able to wobble these two discs separate from each other? So if these aren't in sync properly, then the whole system doesn't work right. That is why, according to the diagram, when BG, which feeds the timer motor, when this switch goes from BG to RE, it's supposed to kill power to the timer motor at the same time that it kills power to the drum motor. The problem was, it was killing power to the timer motor before the drum motor would stop. What's causing that? These two discs are no longer in sync because there's wear and they wobble. See that play? So I'm holding this disc stationary. This should be stationary too, and there's wobble in it. There's looseness. If you look right here, flip it over. See that hole? That hole feeds all the way through these three discs. Goes from this one to this one to this one. That's where they line this thing up from the factory. Wish there was light going through here where you could see it. That's where they line these things up at the factory to know how to mount them on this shaft. They use that hole. That's a pilot hole for alignment. So guess what the fix is to keep these aligned? What I did is I simply took number 10 screw, machine thread, the length, just measure, needs to be the same distance from this disc all the way to the surface here. So the screw, I'm not sure what the length is. I can measure it, but it's probably about, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4. I can put it through this hole, thread it in there with a screwdriver. See if I can do this one-handed. Probably not. Let me do this and I'll get back with you. Hold on. Okay, done. So what I did is I ran this machine screw into the timer motor actuator disc. Ran it from the top one to the second one to the third one. Now I didn't run it all the way flush because it started lifting up on this blue gear right here. But you can grind your screw down or cut your screw to whatever length. The other timer motor that I did, it actually ran all the way up without affecting the third, without affecting this blue gear. But anyway, just run it all the way through. Now check this out. All the discs are locked together. They cannot move at all. So I'm sitting there trying to move it. It's all stationary. This one has just a little bit of wobble in it, but it's fine. It's these two that really matter. So once you get your screw ran through those pilot holes, these discs are now aligned and they can't get out of sync, which means when BG literally gets flipped to RE on the pins, it's cutting the timer motor off exactly at the same time as it's cutting off the drum motor. So I've got a timer motor that I've done this to already in the dryer, and it fixed the problem. So make sure that whatever screw you choose doesn't sit way out here past this shaft where this horseshoe clip is, because it'll rub on the plate. So as long as it's short enough to have clearance between here and the head of the screw, you're fine. And that right there is a fix for this Kenmore dryer timer. And I have a feeling that probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dryers were thrown away due to this same problem. And it's because these plastic discs that have the detents in them wobble on the shaft, and they don't stay perfectly in sync, which is what they need to do. So right now, with that screw through there, it keeps everything in sync. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody. I know it was very frustrating for me to figure this out. It took me a while. I went through this diagram quite a few times, replaced a bunch of parts, bought unnecessary timers, but I'll tell you what, this is a learning experience for me. These things have been in production for probably since the 70s or 80s, I don't know, but they're good dryers. But if you have a timer that's not quite acting right, take it apart. The hardest part is getting that horseshoe clip off right here. And again, you don't have to do that to get this part out with the backing plate on it. But to put the screw in there, like that, you'll have to get that horseshoe clip off to get the backing plate off to where you can run the screw in there, more than likely. Anyway, again, hope that helps somebody, and I'll talk to you later. Okay, I went back and I took the screw and put it on a belt sander, and I took a little bit off the tip right there. That did two things. That made the screw slightly shorter, where it wouldn't lift this blue plastic gear, and also it made it more square on the end, so that it'll fit the hole in the third disc really tight. So let me reinstall this screw and we'll see how it goes. Okay, we've got the screw reinstalled here, and it's been shortened a little bit. So basically I was able to bottom it out right here, pretty much bottom the head of it out, and it fit into the third disc over here. 1, 2, 3, and it went through, and it's locked all the discs together so that they can't get out of sync or spin. Took all the play out basically, and that'll fix the problem. So we just need to get this back together inside the timer housing itself. So we'll put this back in here. It's going to be frustrating trying to do it one-handed, but basically you have to get it in here, get it centered properly down in there. We'll put the plate back on it and put the two screws back in. Put the knob goes on after it's installed in the machine. But this one's fixed, and it'll work forever with that screw in there. Anyway, once you get the timer assembled again with the backing plate back on it, the knob back on it, you'll notice that there's a lot less slop. So before, there was actually quite a bit of slop in this, the rotation of the knob. Now it's pretty tight, and it's because the backlash is basically taken out of those 3 plastic discs with the detents in them once you put the screw through there. So again, this is pretty much like new, and it will not fail with the same problem in the future. Talk to you later.